So while we wait, I think I'll answer some questions that were sent in during sign up. So one of the questions was about webhooks. They're available on both Zapier and Pabbly Connect. We have documentation on how to set up instant triggers with Zapier in our help center, and Natalie will drop a link to that in the chat. Pabbly webhooks are a little bit newer, and they have documentation on their website. There was also a question about pivot tables. So pivot tables are called summary tables in Grist. We'll be building one very quick one on today's webinar, but we did a webinar where we dove into summary tables in greater depth. There's a recording of that on YouTube, and there's also a video playlist on YouTube that is a summary table tutorial. It's a series of 3 videos that digs in a bit deeper. And there was a lot of questions about designing dashboards. So that was the focus of last month's webinar. There's a recording as well. Today, we'll be covering a little bit of that, but the more in-depth thinking about how to lay out your data happened last month. As for document limits, there was a question about that. As a rule of thumb, Grist works best for documents that are under 100,000 rows. So that's for the whole document. So not for each table within one, but the entire database. So the actual limit depends on the number of tables, columns, the average size of your data. One way to estimate it's if you were to export your data as a CSV format, it would be about 20 megabytes. And that's excluding attachments. So any images or videos that you have attached to the document are counted separately. Also, when it comes to integrations, someone asked how to use the API. So integrations can be done with integrator services like Zapier or Integrately, Pabbly, N8N, and that's a lot friendlier to non-developers. To use the API directly, you have to write a script, and popular languages for that are JavaScript and Python running on a computer, not in a browser. So for those 2 languages, we have libraries that make it a bit easier to add data. Natalie can share links to that as well. If you run into any trouble, be sure to ask in the forum. And this is related to a follow-up question from the same user who was asking about importing SQLite files. So a SQLite file is a self-contained database. Importing that would also require using the API directly. If you want to import some data from a SQLite file without writing scripts, ask us on our forum. It'll be a little bit easier to discuss it there. If Dimitri is here, and I don't know if he would want to put a post maybe on the forum, just sort of explaining how that could be done.
I'm here, but I don't have much to add. That was a good answer.
Okay, great. There was also a question, which is, say you're building invoices for a customer, and you also want to add a markup because you need to make some money on top of your expenses. How do you add a markup? So that's purely formula. There's an example in our template gallery. I can zoom out a little bit. This is, which is under business and industry in our template gallery. Custom product builder is the name of the document. There's a profit margin here, and I can show you what this formula is doing, and you could try to replicate what we're doing here, or just use this template to build that. So I'm opening here the creator panel, because what I want to do is drill in a little bit to what's going on here. This widget has these hidden columns. All of this is very drag and drop. So what this is doing is it's saying each one of these contracts has certain line items. So there's certain things included in each one of these contracts that we're selling, and it's being linked by this reference, which we'll get into later in this webinar. But it's saying, you know, take the profit margin that I added, take the product unit cost, and then give me the total cost by the quantity here, and then it's rolling it up. So all of this is something that I don't want to take too much time on just one question, but you can see how we built this in our template, and you can do the same for your own invoicing. And then there was a lot of very specific questions about very specific use cases, which is great, but it's hard to say what would work best without seeing your data. So a great place to start is by looking at our template gallery to see what's been built there and what you could borrow. It's really easy to make copies from our template gallery. This one I already made, but see this, when it says fiddle, this is when you're looking at a template. If I try to change something, it will make a copy that I can save locally. So that's a great way to pull something from our template galleries. Try to make a change and it'll give you a version that you can save. Okay. So look at our template gallery, and if you need more help, ask us questions in the community forum. And also you could always email us at support@getgrist.com. And Natalie can share a link to our forum as well. Okay. So I think we might be ready to start the webinar. Are there any questions about any of that before I dive in? Okay, so I'll move my script and I'll be looking back and forth. So we're going to work today in this inventory manager template. This is a copy of something that's in our gallery as well. It's a company. We're a company that is selling certain clothing. So here we can see all of the products that we sell, the colors, the sizes, the SKU. We have an alert, or is our stock okay? Are we out of stock or low on stock? We can add more products. We can come in here and we can add a brand name, and then within each brand name, add variants based on color. And then within all of these variants, what are the sizes and which ones do we have in stock? And we can look at that by just drilling into our data. So, you know, I won't get into how we built this, but if you're curious and you want to tweak it for your own businesses, please ask us in our forum. The next dashboard is stock status. This is just filtering for out of stock and low stock items to let us know we need to order more of these. And then right here, we can go ahead and we can put in another order. We have here the order. We can add the items that we want, the quantity. Maybe we'll add another one here, add another quantity, and it's automatically calculating how much it's going to cost us. Incoming orders are orders that we place to wholesalers to send us more product. And then outgoing orders are customers, retail customers who are buying from us. So we can see if that's been fulfilled or the status of each one of those orders. And you can see that I moved through the dashboards, but there's these indented tables. So these are the data that is being used in all of these dashboards. So the product variants are all here, but the helpful way to look at this is through this dashboard. And that's one of the great things about Grist is you can create different views of the same data in a way that's really useful. Filtering through this product variant would be, it's possible, but it's very spreadsheet-like, doesn't have all of the flexibility of a Grist layout. Here we can drill into a particular brand name, drill into a particular color and see what we have. Okay. So I think we're ready to start with column types, which is the focus of the first half of the webinar. So the creator panel on the right is where you do all of your configuration in Grist. And there's two main groups. There's the first one is for the table or the card. Really, it's the widget that you have selected. And you can see it updates based on what kind of widget I'm looking at. And then the second one is column, which is where we'll be focusing today. And we'll really be focusing on column type. But I want to mention real quick the difference between a column type and column behavior. So column behavior, really there's two column behaviors. There's data, this is where you're storing a value, or there's a formula, which is where you're calculating something. In both cases, you can select a column type. So data is just taking that value and expressing it as number or text, giving it a particular format. And the same thing is happening for the output of a formula here. So let's start with a text column. Let's start with outgoing orders. So here we have just name. It's a data column. We're just storing the value. It's text. And we can, it's pretty straightforward. It's what you would expect from a text column. You can change the text alignment, center it, put it to the right. If the text is very long or if it's cut off, there's this little icon over here. I think sometimes people miss it. It's text wrapping. It's really helpful if you have a lot of text. You could also change the background color, the font color, make things look a lot more fun. And text, the text columns can also have hyperlink, but I want to show you the difference on how this works. So here we have a text column where it's selected just text, but you can see there's a hyperlink in here. If you copy a hyperlink into a text column, Grist will automatically make it a hyperlink. So what's the benefit of clicking it as a hyperlink format? So what happened here is the text that's before the hyperlink is now seen as the label. So you see how now it says vegan only and you don't see the URL. So that's a little thing I think a lot of users don't discover. So I could, oh, I didn't mean to click on it. Go to Instagram now. I meant to double click. So I can add a label and you can see that the label applies. Also, if you want to create mail to links so that when you open this, it opens in Outlook or in Gmail, so you can quickly email support or whatever email it is that you have in here, you would also use the hyperlink format. So this would open Gmail and have in the to field this email. And you could also add a label, which is what we did here. Okay, the next kind of column that I want to talk about is the numeric column. So, oh, let me make this one numeric. I was playing around. So in the numeric column, you can see it's really easy to change between column types. So here I have a numeric column. Similarly, I can change the text alignment. There's also text wrapping on numeric columns. And then there's formats here. So I can put a currency. And if you do select currency, there's different currencies to select from here. The list is pretty long. So you could also just, if you select it and you start typing, you can select the currency you want. You can see it changed the currency symbol. You can specify the minimum and maximum number of decimals, or maybe you just want a comma separator, you want to express it as a percent, or exponential or scientific notation. And this last one here is more of an accounting thing. So it's, let's go back to currency. So it's if this value were negative, sometimes in accounting programs, you want that in a parentheses. So that's what that does. I guess not just accounting, but that's usually where I've encountered it. Let's make this positive because we're not giving away jackets for free. Okay. Also, there's a version here which has a spinner. Well, you can have a spinner. So what this does is you can kind of go up and down and change the numbers with a spinner, which is sometimes useful for certain applications. And if there were decimals, I just want to show the difference. So that was going up on the dollar, and here we're, here, this is why. So if I have this, you can see it's going up on the cents now. I just had to have the minimum decimals. Okay. Oh, and you can also change the fill and the color on these as well. Okay, now I feel like it's looking like a mess, but we know all of the formatting options here. And also, as I mentioned, formula versus data column. This is a data column. This is a formula column that's pulling from here. So you can see that you can take the formula column and it still has a numeric type, so you can format it with currency. An integer column is similar to numeric, except there's no decimals, but same formatting options. You can put it as currency if you like. This isn't a currency. This is number of items in stock. We don't have pieces of clothing, maybe. So here we have whole numbers, but it's the exact same formatting options. Let's see. Yeah, we can move on to date. So if we go to stock status, here, you guys saw me already pick a date. So in a date type column, when you go to enter a date, if you double click, you'll see a little calendar, or you can just type in a date in the format that you've selected. So here's the different formats. So you can click through and see what they do. So you can see how you get numbers, or you might get a word, and you can start pattern matching. So 2Ms, what is 2Ms gives you the month as 2 digits. 3Ms gives you like the shortened version of the month. 4M spells out the whole month. And the reason I point that out is because there's also this custom option. You can basically follow that pattern matching and then adapt it. Like maybe I want something like this, but I just want 2 digits for the year and like something like this, right? So you can have your own version and just sort of learn from the pattern that you see here, and you could add dashes, commas, hyphens as well. And same thing, you can move the text alignment and you can color it in if you like. So the date column is just the date with no timestamp. But there is also the option to have a date timestamp. So I'll show you what we have here. There is in a data column, I mentioned those special trigger formulas. You can learn more about them in the webinar that I mentioned, but a very common one is a timestamp. So the now formula here that's how you can like pull in a timestamp. So what this is saying is this formula is just saying whenever the status changes to received, give me a timestamp. So here we have that timestamp. And in the datetime column, you have the same formatting options that we saw in date, but there is also time zone. So you can select a different time zone. And you can also format the hours, minutes, seconds, and same thing as with dates, there's pattern matching here if you wanted to have something done custom. One more thing, it's you might have noticed that before when I changed the currency to euro, or here when I changed this column to a particular time zone, maybe you want the currency and the time zone to be consistent across the entire document. If you go into your user menu and you click on document settings, you can set for the whole document the time zone that you want and the currency that you want, and locale and things like that as well. So then that will be the default for your date time and your currency columns. Okay. So now let's talk about a choice column. So we have a choice column here. So what a choice column is, it lets you have a list of values to choose from. So if I were to add a new date here, I can't just, I mean, I could, but it would give me an error. The idea is that I'm supposed to choose from this list. This is the list that I should be choosing from to keep things very organized in my document. So how do we edit this list? You can edit it right over here where you can add a new one. So I can add that and save it. So now you can see that new is an option. So I just double click in here to open it. You can change the colors by clicking on the drop down arrow. So maybe I want this one to be orange and bright, and you can see that I changed it over here. I can also delete it if I regretted that because it makes no sense. And you can see it gives you an error. It's no longer in the list. So that's a good way to see if something was entered incorrectly in a choice list column. Also, you can edit this text after you've entered it. So let's say instead of received, we want got it. And we save that. You can see that it updated received to got it. So you can edit things that way without having to go back and manually fix it. Just like with text columns, you can change the alignment. There's text wrapping as well if things get very long. And then you can fill in like the background if that's helpful. But it's looking very loud. Okay. So what if you wanted to select more than one thing? A choice column only lets you choose one value. A choice list column lets you select multiple values like we have here. These are search tags. So somebody's looking up our product and we're tagging it as denim, outdoor wear, tops. So same thing, there is a list to choose from that is configured over here. But now we can select multiples. So maybe this is also trendy. There we go. Same formatting options are available here. You can see this is being text wrapped. If it wasn't, it would just sort of cut off like this. But if we want to see that better, now it's being text wrapped. That's what that does on a choice list column. We can still have a background. So that's nice. And also one more thing I mentioned, you can add new values here, but you could also add a new value here. So what you do is you click the plus sign. If I just hit enter, I'll get that error like last time. But if I click the plus sign, I'm making a conscious decision to add it to my choice list. So if I add that, you can see that now it's available over here, the new one I added, and I can give it some nice colors too. And there it is. Okay. So now we're going to get to, we've been going down in the order. So now we're going to get to a reference column. So a reference column, let's do a very simple one. So what a reference column is this is the sort of workhorse of building these cool relational structures within Grist. This is telling Grist that this record is related to a record in another table. So in this case, let's look at how this reference column is configured. It's pointing to data from the table color. So that's this table. So it's pointing to a record in here. And we're saying show the color column. So in the color table, we have two fields. We have color and we have the code. And we're saying this reference is pointing to this whole record. It's pointing to all of this, but showing all of this wouldn't be very helpful or useful. So we're saying, show me the color. That's how I want to identify what I'm pointing to. So the great thing about this reference is it makes lookups really easy, or easier than in some spreadsheets where you use something like VLOOKUP. So I have this configured. Similar text formatting options are available here. And you can add more reference columns. So what I'm saying is, in that other table, I want you to look up a field from the table that this is related to. So the only other option is code. We only have 2 fields in that table. So what this does is it's saying, you know, army green, this is the code. Multi, this is the code. Blue. So it's how you do a lookup from that table using that reference. This is also a formula that's really easy to use and repeat in more complicated formulas. This is also covered in our reference columns guide. It's a video tutorial and a walkthrough with text where you can learn more. And maybe Natalie can share a link to, oh, she did already, great. Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to point out about reference columns is that's how we get this really cool linking. So you see how when I click on the brand name, these are updating. It's updating because all of these records here are linked to Indiana jeans in this table. If I click on vegan only, it's vegan only, right? So this is filtering this table, which is product variant, or it's linking by that relationship. So it's knowing, it knows which records are related to this record because of the reference column. Same thing with all products. All products, there's a product variant here that is linking to this table. So if I click on gray, that would update it to the gray ones. And again, it's via this, it's text wrap so you can read it, to this reference to this table. So we're chaining these 3 widgets together using references. That's how we get that update. Oh, we don't have any navy. We need to order some navy. Okay. So there's also reference lists. This template is pretty busy. So I want to do a simpler one for reference lists. This is also in our template gallery. So the way that this one works, just to show you how a reference list works, it's here we have a table of goals. And then we're just tracking our habits every day. We want to track which goals did we accomplish. This is a reference list to those goals. So we're saying, okay, I'm choosing from that list. And it kind of works a little similarly to choice lists in the kind of, so here's what I mean. I'm going to add a new one here, and you can see that now new is available as something that I can choose. And you could also write in another one here, add the plus sign on the bottom, and now another is here. So that's sort of what I meant by, like, you can add one by adding the plus sign, or you can establish what that list is. It works the same for reference columns as well. You can add a new reference that way. Okay. So the very last column type we have is attachments. So an attachment lets you attach different kinds of files like PDFs, images, videos. You can change the size of the attachment here with this slider. You can still do a background color if you like. If you click on it, it opens in a light box. And in this light box, you can change the title if you like. You can download it, delete it, or you can add another one. So you can have multiple images. So I'm gonna go ahead and add another image here. And now you can see I have 2. And you can see how it looks in the actual cell. You can also drag and drop. I usually drag and drop images, or you can click this paperclip to open your file explorer as well. Okay. So those are all of the column types. That's how you can use them to add structure to your document, make it look nice, make it easy to scan. But what if you wanted to make some of these changes without risking affecting the document that you already have? So this is probably one of my favorite features, because I never want to mess something up after I built it, but I always want to experiment. So if you click on the share icon, there is work on a copy. So it's different than duplicate. Duplicate is making a copy that you're going to save. Working on a copy, it's like a fork. So I'm going to click on work on a copy. And what you'll see is that it's unsaved. It's not automatically saved. So I can come in here and I can do different things without affecting the other one that we were just on, the one that is saved, because maybe my teammates are working on it and I don't want to do anything too disruptive. So maybe one of the things that I want to know is how many products do I have in each one of these search tags? So let's build a summary table. That's what a pivot table would do, right? We want to group, okay, how many records have the denim tag? How many records have the tops tag? So I'm going to add a new page and I'm grouping product variant, that's the table we're looking at, by search tags. So that's how you create a summary table. You pick the table that you're trying to summarize. The summation icon is how you create a summary, and then you pick the group by column, and you could have multiple, so you can group by multiple things. In this case, we're just grouping by search tags. So I'm going to add that page, and Grist will automatically do a few things. It will count how many records are in each group. So we have 5 products that are bottoms, 4 that are pants, and then so you can see, and so on. And then anything numeric, it will automatically sum, thinking that that's probably useful. If it's not, you can just hide it. So yeah, so here we have this summary table, and also maybe this product is now cheaper. Maybe this came down. Okay. And I'm just gonna go back to like normal default colors here. So, so now what can I do with these changes? So if you click on this share icon again, you have a few options. I can save a copy. This is separate from the version that my teammates might be working on right now. I can return to the original if I'm unhappy with these changes, or I can open the original in another tab if I want to compare. I can replace the original, which we'll do in a second, or I can compare to the original. So that will open a comparison in a new tab, and you can see the changes that I made between the one that we were just working on. So here's the unit cost change. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this unsaved copy, and I am going to replace the original. And it's going to just say, it's going to be updated. Just one quick warning. Are you sure? I'm sure. Update it. And now this is the version that all of my teammates will see now that I've replaced it. And here's that new page with the summary. So I can do summary by tags. So that's a great way to experiment without risking breaking anything, which sometimes can feel a little scary, especially when you're doing a lot of things with formulas. So normally it's good to work on a copy. And similarly, if you didn't work on a copy and you made mistakes, the great thing is that document history has snapshots. They're taken more frequently in recent history, less frequency as you go further back. So here we have a few seconds ago, 4 minutes ago, and so on until it's every few hours and then every few days. So what you can do is you can open one of these backups as a snapshot. And similarly, there's options here to save this as a copy. You can also download this if you want to like save your backup externally or somewhere else. You can download one of these snapshots without replacing what you currently have. You can return to your current version. You can replace the current version. So if you made a big mistake, you just want to go back to one from a few minutes ago. I've done that. It's super helpful. You can also compare to the current version. So when I do this, it's going to have a little didn't pop up. There's a document tour on the old version. You'll sometimes see that in our template gallery, but you can see again, you know, price changes were happening. So in this case, I'm going to return to the current version. I don't want to revert to this older one. So that's how you can use snapshots to, you know, pretend it never happened or save backups. Okay. And I think that's it. We can open it up to questions now. You can put questions in the chat.
Hi there, is Eduardo here.
Oh, hi. Nice to hear from you.
Thank you. You showed the column as a attachment for pictures. Mm-hmm. If I have a column which are links to an image, can I show the image in the same way you are showing the photos here? But I didn't not uploaded. It's just a internet link.
Mm-hmm. That's currently not supported supported, though it's something we would like to build that we've talked about, you can do it with custom widgets. So that's something we can help you with in the forum. And we do want to make that easier to do with custom widgets. We've helped other users do it, so it's possible, and we can do that for you too.
Great, thank you.